See You in Queens is a Modern Spaces production. I'm Rebekah, marketing manager for Modern Spaces and producer for this show. Eric Benaim, co-founder and president of Modern Spaces, is the podcast host. Please note that while we welcome and invite all guests into our studio, their views do not necessarily reflect that of our own company. While content will not be explicit in nature, sometimes colorful language will be used. Listener discretion is advised.
Take us to Queens at once.
A wild rumor swept the nation this afternoon. It was vouchsafed that the New York Mets had become baseball champions of the world.
20 votes are all that separate Belinda Katz and Tiffany Caban in the Queens DA Democratic primary.
Come to Queens. It's cool now.
It's a great day for New York City. It's an extraordinary day for Queens.
Welcome back to See You in Queens. Today, host Eric Benaim is joined by Paula Kirby of Plaxall Gallery and Edjo Wheeler of Culture Lab. You're going to hear about Plaxall's long involvement and history with Long Island City and their new initiative and partnership to create the Culture Lab, a really exciting non-for-profit art space to support artists and organizations in the neighborhood. We couldn't be more excited about this partnership and what it means for Long Island City. So please enjoy this conversation between Eric, Paula, and Edjo. You can learn more about Plaxall Gallery as well as the Culture Lab in the show notes.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to See You in Queens. And this week's episode, our guests are Edjo Wheeler and Paula Kirby, talking about the newly formed nonprofit organization called Culture Lab. Hey guys, how are you?
Great, Eric. Happy to be here.
Hey,
yeah, thank you for inviting us.
Thank you for coming. So, quick question. So, what is Culture Lab exactly?
I'll give that one to Edjo, since he's the executive director.
Okay.
Culture Lab is an arts, culture, and community organization with the goal to be to oversee and bring together different not-for-profit organizations and to provide arts, culture, and community services for Long Island City.
Wow, very nice. And how did this get started?
I can give a bit of the history. So at Plaxall, we had a bit of extra space a few years ago, and we were, concerned about trying to find a tenant, but we didn't want a super long lease. And as we were looking, LIC, which is LIC Artists, came to us, the members of LIC, and said, could we ever use the space in the interim? We could do some programming here and show some of the great artwork from the artists of Queens and LIC. And we said, that sounds like a great plan. We'll give it to you for 2 to 3 months and see how it works out. And now it's about 3.5 years later, I think, right, Edjo?
Yeah, creeping up on 4.
And it's all due to the great work of Edjo and his team and the artists and so many people who volunteer. But it's been an amazing use of the space, and it hasn't purely been arts focused. It's really become almost like a community center. So while the arts are certainly highlighted there, and there's always some sort of show, an exhibition, music, there's been some plays and so on. There's always something artistic going on. But there are also things like English as a second language art tours, or the drink and draw on Thursday evenings, where people from the community can come in and draw live models. Or things like we had some members of Alcoholics Anonymous reach out to us and say, is there any space that Plaxall might have available for our meetings? And we passed them on to Edjo, and so now every Saturday morning there's an AA meeting, and that's the first weekend AA meeting in existence in Long Island City for the weekend, and that's been going on now, I think, for about 2+ years as well, right, Edjo?
Yeah, definitely.
People have come and held their fundraisers. They've also had seminars. It's just been a great use of the space, and it shows that when you have someone who's really open to new ideas, willing to work with a lot of different people, willing to take on these logistical challenges, what you can do in a space and really activate it, as much as possible. And Edjo and his team have just been really amazing at that.
Wow, very cool. So for those of you who don't know about you, Paula, you're from the Plaxall family. I believe you guys have been here since like the 50s, if I'm not mistaken.
Actually, the 40s. Our grandfather decided to locate his startup business here, and that involved plastics thermoforming, which is still a part of our business today. But we, as he did well in the plastics, Grandpa started to invest in Long Island City. He just loved the community here, loved the location, and the proximity to Manhattan, the proximity to Forest Hills, which is where he had lived and where my cousins and I all grew up. So when the opportunity would arise, he would invest in more property here. So we've really now become more of a property manager. So we have a number of buildings in Long Island City, mainly commercial, mainly more like light industrial buildings, and we have a really great mix of tenants.
And so I've been in the neighborhood for 15 years, and throughout those 15 years, you guys contribute a lot to not just the community as a whole, but various arts organizations, and you guys really have like a very big heart. Talk to me a little bit about that and how that has kind of like, I guess, helped you into growing more and I guess turning it now into what Culture Lab will hopefully be.
So I think you really need role models in your life to provide example for doing good. And in our case, our grandparents and our parents were really committed not just to the business and doing well in the family business, but to the community. So, we were founding members of the Long Island City Partnership. I believe it was called something different initially 40 years ago. And my mother was very active in Jacob Riis for decades. My aunt's been active in the Queens Community House. So, you look at these people who have really volunteered and committed to these other organizations and how that can make a community better. So, right from the get-go, I think all of us in the third generation got involved in a number of things. My brother was on the board of the Queens Museum. I then took that role over when he retired. And my niece is now on the board of Jacob Riis. My cousin is on the board of Our Children. Another Matthew is on the board of the Long Island City Partnership. And it is time consuming and it's a commitment, but it makes the neighborhood better. And one of the things we really love to see is we used to really sort of lay low and not mention Plaxall much and not put our sponsorship out there and sort of do things behind the scenes. But then we realized, this is a way for us to provide example to others in the community. So it's great to then see all of a sudden, one of our tenants like Rockaway might be donating beer to an event, or another tenant, Very Direct, is now using their trucks to deliver food to different areas in Long Island City during this terrible COVID situation. So to think hopefully we've inspired people in a way that's a good thing. It's a good feeling.
Oh, very nice. And Edjo, what's your background exactly?
I am an artist, a filmmaker. I design spaces, and I've been running not-for-profit and community endeavors since I was 18 years old.
Wow. Very, very nice. So, tell me a little bit about what's going on during COVID now with the space.
Well, obviously, all the programming that we had going on had to come to an abrupt halt. So we did some very quick pivoting. We started to work with certain groups like LIC Relief they needed a space to use for a pantry. So we converted our front gallery into a food pantry. We're working with other organizations like Brighter Bites, the City Harvest, Queens Together. And between them, we're getting anywhere between 10 to 30,000 pounds of food delivered into our parking lot every week.
Wow.
And being able to support those kinds of activities. You know, we try to move as much programming as we can online, but I think now is the time for us to focus on what the community needs and listening to them and trying to provide that. So obviously right now, food relief is a big part of that.
Wow, very, very cool. I've been definitely seeing all the stuff that LIC Relief is doing, and I've been seeing all the photos of all the food going in and going out of the space. Very, very impressive. What are the challenges that you guys are seeing in Queens over the past couple of years?
In Queens in general?
Or like in Western Queens, in our part of the neighborhood?
Well, I think some of the challenges, I mean, besides things like parking, you know, there's things that have happened and that have divided the community, and I think we need to heal from that. You know, what Paula was saying about bringing different groups together to create that kind of synergy. You know, Plaxall had a whole bunch of food trays from a company that went out of business. So what do you do with those food trays? Well, we don't want to just recycle them and turn them into something else. How can we get those into the community? You know, so finding out where the holes are and trying to plug them with bringing different people together. So communication amongst businesses and seeing how we can work together to try to get people to shop and communicate locally. Mm-hmm. I think that's a real issue.
Plaxall, if Paul, if I'm not mistaken, did you guys make like shields? Like
we're doing some face shields, and it was really interesting. Right at the beginning of the whole COVID lockdown, you know, these stories about PPE and the urgent need for everything came out, and we had not only from members of our own family, you know, I got things from some of my brothers where they say, hey, can't we make something like this, you know, with the plastics factory? And then a tenant contacted us and said, hey, we want to keep our workers coming to work to be able to pay them. And the way we can do that is by manufacturing PPE. So this tenant, Eventscape, a great team, they said, look, we'll work on the design, and if you guys can you know, punch out these plastic masks, you know, let's see if we can make something happen here. So what they came up with, which is really unique, it's not just the face shields, which are very effective, but it's this dispenser system, which is a box of 100 face shields, and they come disassembled, right? And so you need to assemble them, but it's like a 1 minute process. But it means that the footprint of this package is much smaller than it would be if they were already assembled, and they're also you know, much less likely to be damaged. And given that you know, people are intending to stockpile these for a while, it makes for very good storage and to have these things on hand, and for other businesses that might not need 100 all at once, you know, to have a box in your closet and use them, you know, over time, it makes a lot of sense. So we've, you know, I think a number of them have been donated to the front lines, police workers and so on, up in Toronto, actually, which is where Eventscape is based. But we've also made a bunch of donations here, and we've had some purchases and so on. And, you know, we're going to continue doing that because it really helps us keep our employees coming to work, and it also helps our tenants keep busy and keep paying their employees. So that was really important to us.
It's crazy times. Unfortunately, a lot of businesses are closing or going to be closing. And part of that is also a lot of cultural businesses or centers are closing. One local one is the Secret Theater for example. So what kind of crazy time, what are the challenges are you seeing with, I guess, launching a brand new cultural center, kind of like the Culture Lab?
Right. Well, in some ways, the timing for all this really was perfect. We had decided that Long Island City Artists, I mean, they're a not-for-profit organization. I sit on their board. They've been in Long Island City since the 80s. And we made the decision, because they were running the space, that they would move more just into artist services, because they're a membership organization. And this new organization, Culture Lab, would focus on being the umbrella organization. The challenges are there's going to be a void. One of the greatest things about Queens, especially Western Queens, is it is such an art center. This is really a place where the arts have been happening for decades. A lot of people feel that, the art scene in Queens is new, and it absolutely is not. So I think that the different arts organizations need to come together. I know Long Island City Partnership has been working on this to try to create like an art walk, to try to create an arts center. And there is so much art in the area, you can't really walk it in one turn, right? There's just too much to see, so all the different arts organizations are going to need to work together to be able to share the resources and to support each other. The loss of the Secret Theater is a pretty big blow. They're one of the only brick and mortar theaters besides ours in the area, and that's going to leave a cultural void. And, our programming, we're an arts center, we're a community center, we have educational programs, we have artists in residence. We want to be able to make sure that the organizations that are caught short have a home with us.
Very nice. I think definitely, something like this is needed, especially with the loss of the Secret Theater. What kind of programming are you thinking you're going to do, aside from, let's say, art, outside of the arts?
Paula did a good job running through some of the community organizations that we help. So first and foremost, we provide space. And we try to do that completely free of charge for any of the not-for-profits that need to use it. So when High School of Art and Design needed to do their thesis project, we gave them space to develop it. Jacob Reef Neighborhood Settlement needed a place for their gala. We've got you covered. Then there's organizations that can't afford to rent a hall out to do their galas or fundraising, right? So being able to continue our programming where we raise money for the floating hospital or Habitat for Humanity, we let our children use our space for fundraising.
Our Children does a wonderful Christmas event every year, holiday event, and it's just beautiful to see. And they give presents to all of the children and the families they're taking care of. It's really lovely.
Wow. And that's really what makes this worthwhile. Uh-huh. Where we have a 12,000 square foot space, and there's always room to bring in more activity. So continuing with the fundraiser, getting more educational programs in. We partner with the local schools, CS 78 across the street. We do a lot of programming for them, and I think they're going to need that even more now.
So yesterday I heard that there's some kind of partnership or collaboration with the Rockaway Brewery and some kind of social distancing thing. What is it exactly?
Right. Well, because so many businesses aren't allowed to have people in their establishment, we're trying to open up our parking lot, which is where the LIC flea happens, to open up that space so that they can still do business outdoors and do social distancing. So we invited Rockaway Brewery over. They set up sort of a grab-and-go beer garden, and it was great. I think they did really great in sales, and everyone just sort of found a different area in the parking lot to drink a beer and have a quesadilla and enjoy themselves outside. We look forward to being able to provide that for more businesses.
Yeah, we're hoping to expand that with other local, restaurants or other businesses, so people can keep their businesses running.
I'm hoping no local businesses close at all, and something like having access to a beer garden or something like that where they can generate more income would definitely help out. I know, so that you guys are Culture Lab is early stages. You guys are looking to fundraise yourself.
Yeah, we're definitely in the early stages now, but we're really enthusiastic about moving forward. We think this is the kind of institution that's really needed at this time, and because it's so, it's been so flexible with the COVID relief activities and with other community activities, we think it's the right thing at the right time. So we've formed a mini board so far, but we're looking to expand, and then certainly fundraising would become a part of that.
It's important to remember that even though Culture Lab is new, the people running it are not. So we're already coming to the table. Besides our outside personal experiences, we have almost 4 years experience doing a massive amount of programming here in the gallery. We have the vision, the skills, we have the incentives, the resources. So, we're basically creating an opportunity where it makes it very easy to give us money. Like if you want to make sure that your money is doing something really good for the community, Culture Lab is your safest bet.
So how does somebody get in contact with somebody?
You can just go to our website, culturelablic.org. You can send us an email. There's a donation button. But we're also looking for the community to get involved when we come out of this and we're all able to shake hands again and be in front of each other. There's going to be a lot of opportunity to help out and to get involved.
And how do you find Culture Lab on social media? Are you guys on? I'm assuming Instagram and Facebook. Yep.
Yep. All the typical places on the interwebs. It's just Culture Lab LIC, and you'll see us pop up on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter.
Great. Well, definitely an organization I fully support. If you're out there listening to this, I would definitely donate some money to Culture Lab. Definitely an organization that is much needed, especially now in Long Island City in Western Queens. Edjo, thank you again so much. Paula, thank you again so much for continuously supporting the community. Great organization. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in person and shaking your hand very soon. If there's anything else you'd like to say.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we're dragging you onto our board. So we're making you participate whether you want to or not, Eric.
Well, I'm excited to be part of the board, so thank you again.
Great. Well, I think, we're so impressed with what you've done, Eric, over the years, and it's built an amazing business, and you're so loyal to Queens, and you give back in so many ways, and, with the Queens, the Long Island City Partnership and all of your involvement there and in so many other institutions. So really, thank you for everything you do.
Well, we really appreciate your support.
Thank you. I have the Plaxall family to look up to and try to catch up to you guys.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again, and everybody, see you in Queens.
Thanks for listening to See You in Queens, a business, real estate, and lifestyle podcast from Modern Spaces. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. See you in Queens.